Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this bonus episode, what we're going to talk about is Mount Rushmore. Now, if you're familiar with the series, it's a series that I started roughly about a year or so ago. And on the series, what I decided to do was to take a sports theme and apply it to the podcast. What I mean by that is you take the Mount Rushmore four faces and you replace them with four athletes that represent a particular city. Now, the only caveat is that they have to have either played for one of the sports teams in that particular city, or they have to represent that particular city. Maybe that's where they were born or where they grew up. Nonetheless, that's how it works. And if you follow the podcast, you know that I did a few episodes last year, and I figured there'd be a great time to pick it back up this year. And as you can tell by the title, we're taking it to the city of brotherly love. That's right. All the way live from 215, we're going to Philadelphia. And again, the only caveat is that you have to have played for the sports teams. One thing I will say about making these Mount Rushmores is that on the surface, it looks a whole lot easier than what it really is. When you break it down and you say, okay, hey, I'm going to look at a city and I'm going to pick four of the best athletes who have played in that city, it's not as easy as you may think, especially when you get to teams and cities that had great players. LA, for example, being one that was very difficult to do. Nonetheless, we're talking about Philadelphia. And I got to be honest, before I even did this, I had to reach out to the unofficial mayor of Philadelphia, my man OJ Spivey, a.k.a. OJ Philly. Shout out to the homie OJ. OJ writes for the Philly Tribune. We go way back to the early days of Twitter in like 2007. That's my guy. And what was interesting was when I reached out to him, he said he gave me his Mount Rushmore for Philadelphia. And there was one person that he left off that I was very surprised that he left off, but he had a great Mount Rushmore. But I just wanted to reach out to him just to kind of pick his brain. But I have my own unique Mount Rushmore, and I'll tell you who they are in just a second. But yeah, once again, shout out to OJ. So without further ado, let's get into it, you guys. The Mount Rushmore for the city of Philadelphia. Now, if you're not familiar with Philadelphia, they have quite a few sports teams. There's the hockey team, which is the Philadelphia Flyers. There's the baseball team, which is the Philadelphia Phillies. And of course, the football team, which is the Philadelphia Eagles. And the basketball team, the Philadelphia 76ers. So without further ado, let's get it cracking. Coming up in slot number one, and these are in no particular order. Slot number one goes to Wilt Chamberlain. That's right, Wilt Chamberlain, who went to high school in Philadelphia, the pride of Overbrook High. Wilt played 7 seasons in Philadelphia. And in those 7 seasons, he played 508 games. He averaged 34.3 points a game and 25.1 rebounds per game. You heard that right. 34 points and 25 rebounds, as well as 4.7 assists in his time in the Philadelphia uniform. Now, what many of you know, maybe you don't know, March 2nd, 1962, Philadelphia played a game against the New York Knicks. In that game, they won 169 to 147. In that game alone, Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points by himself. Again, the team scored 169 points. Of the 169, Wilt had 100 of them. And what was interesting about that game was that, one, it was the most points ever scored in the NBA by a single player. And that feat has never been matched. And in my honest opinion, I don't think it'll ever be matched. But ironically, this game wasn't televised. There's no video footage of the game. and it was barely covered by the media. There's only audio from like the fourth quarter. And what was interesting was the New York media wasn't there. And that lends to some conspiracy theorists thinking that the game really didn't happen. Well, let me let you in on a little secret. It did. And Wilt did score 100 points. What was interesting about that year in 1962, Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50.4 points a game, 25.7 rebounds per game. Let me say that again. In 1962, he averaged 50 points a game and averaged 25 rebounds a game. Numbers that are gargantuan that will never be duplicated. And for that reason alone, Wilt Chamberlain goes on my Mount Rushmore. But Wilt Chamberlain obviously is in the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame. He was voted to the All NBA top 35 players of all time, top 50 of all time, and top 75 team of all time. Wilt Chamberlain, one of the great giants in sports, and dominated the sport of basketball. One of the greatest scorers, obviously, in the history of the game, and one of the greatest players in the game. I could not do a Mount Rushmore for Philadelphia and leave Wilt off. So slot number 1 goes to my man, the Big Dipper, Wilt Chamberlain. Slot number 2 goes to quarterback. Number 5 from the Philadelphia Eagles, Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb played in Philadelphia from 1999 to 2009. And in that time, he had an 86.5% passer ratio. He had 216 touchdowns, 100 interceptions in 148 games as an Eagle. If I'm not mistaken, Donovan McNabb went to 5 consecutive NFC Championship games. Of course, he was a 6-time Pro Bowler. He's on the Eagles' 75th anniversary team. He's in the Eagles Hall of Fame. His number 5 has been retired by the Eagles, and he's in the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. I'll say this, and this may be somewhat controversial because there's a lot of people that didn't like Donovan. Personally, I like Donovan McNabb as a quarterback. As a New York Giants fan, I didn't like him as much when he played against my team, but I wanted to see McNabb be successful. And McNabb was one of the first black quarterbacks to reach that upper echelon of play where he was one of, or viewed as one of the best quarterbacks in the league at a time where that really didn't happen for black quarterbacks. McNabb famously was booed when he was drafted, but I don't hold that against McNabb. I think McNabb was a phenomenal quarterback. I don't know if he'll ever make it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but for this discussion, Donovan McNabb makes the Philadelphia Mount Rushmore for me. Slot number 3, small forward for the Philadelphia 76ers. Number 6, Julius, the Doctor, Irving. That's right. Julius Irving, a.k.a. Dr. J, played 11 seasons for the 76ers. In that time, he averaged 22 points, 6.7 rebounds a game, as well as 3.9 assists in 836 regular season games as in the city of Philadelphia. He was elected to 11 All-Star games. He won an All-Star game MVP, and he also won a championship in the city of Philadelphia. In 1993, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Simply put, Dr. J was Jordan before Jordan, right? If you watch basketball back then, back in the days in the late 70s, early 80s to mid 80s, Dr. J was the guy. Nobody else floated through the air and did the things that he could do, and he would dunk on you and your mom. He was quick to put cats on a poster. Dr. J also was the epitome of cool. Off the court, man, Dr. J was smooth. Dr. J was the guy that guys wanted to be like and ladies wanted to get with. Very smooth and very debonair off the court as well. But yeah, I don't think anybody can make a Philadelphia Mount Rushmore and leave this guy off. Not if you know anything about sports. I'm a little bit biased because Dr. J was the first person that I gravitated to watch the NBA. And I love watching him as much as I could as a kid. But once again, the third slot is going to go to none other than Julius Dr. J. Irving. Dr. J, as I mentioned earlier, he was an 11-time All-Star, 2-time All-Star MVP. He was named to the All-NBA First Team 5 times. He was named to the All-NBA Second Team 2 times. His number 6 is retired by the 76ers, and he made the NBA Anniversary Team, the 35th Anniversary Team, the 50th Anniversary Team, and the 75th Anniversary Team. Like I said, slot number 3 goes to the legend, the element, the epitome of cool, my man, Dr. J. Coming in for the 4th slot. If you know me, you know what this answer is. There's only one answer, and there's no question who the answer is. The answer is the answer. Allen Iverson, a.k.a. my man Bubba Chuck. Allen Iverson averaged 27.6 points a game, 6.1 assists per game, and 3.9 rebounds a game in his 722 games as a 76er. During that time, he won a league MVP in 2001. He was named to the NBA All-Star team 11 times. He was a 2-time All-Star Game MVP. 3 times he was named first team All-NBA. 3 times All-NBA second team. He was also named to the All-NBA third team once. Of course, in 1997, he was the NBA Rookie of the Year. That year, he also made the All-Rookie team. Allen Iverson also was the NBA scoring champion 4 times. And this is key because Allen Iverson isn't a big guy. I mean, like, I had the privilege of standing next to him once, and I am 5'7.5". Allen Iverson's probably about 5'10". He's listed at like 6'1", 6'2", but he ain't that tall. And I think when he was playing, he probably weighed about maybe 160 pounds, soaking wet with Timberlands on. So to lead the league in scoring amongst giants in 1999, 2001, 2002, and 2005 just says what you need to know about not only his talent, but his heart. I think he represented Philly in the best way. Even when he was getting into trouble, I think he still wore Philadelphia on his arm. He famously said he played every game like his last. And he's the one guy that I personally would pay money to see any day. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, and it's worth repeating. Allen Iverson is my second favorite basketball player behind Michael Jordan. He was also a 3 times NBA steals leader. He was named to the 75th anniversary team, and his number 3 has been retired by the Philadelphia 76ers. So there you have it. Let me give it to you one more time for those of you who are scoring at home. Slot number 1, Wilt Chamberlain. Slot number 2, Donovan McNabb. Slot number 3, Dr. J. Slot number 4, Allen Iverson. Do you agree or do you disagree? You know what? Hit me up. I would love to hear your response and love to hear who you would pick as the Philadelphia Mount Rushmore. You want to get at me? We have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/12Kyle podcast. Go on there, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And go in the comment section and hit me up and tell me who you would put on there. If you want to respond on Spotify, you can do that as well. Or you can hit me up on social media as well. Remember, the podcast drops every Thursday at midnight. From time to time, we drop bonus episodes just like this one on Sundays at midnight. You can find the podcast anywhere. I mentioned Spotify, but it's also on Apple. It's on SoundCloud. It's wherever you can find your podcast, right? Also on YouTube as well. It's important that you go to YouTube because YouTube, we have the audio and the video of every episode. And if you want to hit me up on social media, I'm everywhere on social media. At 12 Kyle, at 12 Kyle Podcast, on Twitter X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. We have our own TikTok page for the 12 Kyle Podcast. And if you feel so inclined, if you want to throw us a couple of dollars, listen, I'll take all of your money. I will gladly take your money. Hit me up, $TWELVEKYLE on the Cash App. And if you look in the description box, you will see a link and it says merch. All you got to do is click that link. You can buy 12 Kyle Podcast mugs. You can buy 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts and hoodies and much, much more. I appreciate your support. Again, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for checking out this bonus edition of the 12 Kyle Podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle, again, bringing you another episode. This one, Philadelphia Sports Mount Rushmore. Again, I'm your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5G.